Tucker's a nice guy. He called and apologized the other day because he thought he said things that were a little bit too strong, and I appreciated that. And Ted Cruz is a nice guy. I mean, he's been with me for a long time. I'd say once the race was over, he's been with me ever since, right? If they think that it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon, then they should oppose me, but nobody thinks it's okay. And it's interesting because I did ask Tucker, I said, well, are you okay with nuclear weapons being in the hands of Iran? And he sort of didn't like that. He didn't want to really, but he sort of didn't like that. And I said, well, if it's okay with you, then you and I do have a difference.
U.S. President Donald Trump revealed that former Fox News host Tucker Carlson phoned him to apologize over his remarks on the Iran-Israel war. The apology came after Carlson admitted his criticism of the conflict had been a little too strong and personally called Trump to express regret. Trump, speaking from the Oval Office, called Carlson a nice guy and said he appreciated the unexpected apology. Trump also said that the two also discussed Iran's nuclear program, which has become a flashpoint amid rising Middle East tensions. Trump said he asked Carlson if he was okay with Iran having nuclear weapons, but Carlson reportedly said he wasn't.
Have you seen the Tucker Carlson and Senator Ted Cruz interview? It seems like this issue on whether or not the United States should strike is kind of dividing a lot of your supporters.
No, my supporters are for me. My supporters are America first. They make America great again. My supporters don't want to see Iran have a nuclear weapon. Tucker's a nice guy. He called and apologized the other day because he thought he said things that were a little bit too strong, and I appreciated that. And Ted Cruz is a nice guy. I mean, he's been with me for a long time. I'd say once the race was over, he's been with me ever since, right? But very simple. If they think that it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon, then they should oppose me, but nobody thinks it's okay. People that don't want, I don't want to fight either. I'm not looking to fight. But if it's a choice between fighting and them having a nuclear weapon, you have to do what you have to do. Maybe we won't have to fight. Don't forget, we haven't been fighting. We add a certain amount of genius to everything, but we haven't been fighting at all. Israel's done a very good job of that. But we'll see what happens. The bottom line is they can't have nuclear. And if Ted, I can't imagine that Ted Cruz said it's okay for Iran to have nuclear, including Tucker. I don't think Tucker says it's okay. The problem is then they get themselves into a thing. They don't want them to have nuclear, but then they say, well, we don't want to fight. Well, you're going to have to make a choice because it's possible that you're going to have to fight for them not to have nuclear. And it's interesting because I did ask Tucker, I said, well, are you okay with nuclear weapons being in the hands of Iran? And he sort of didn't like that. He didn't want to really, but he sort of didn't like that. And I said, well, if it's okay with you, then you and I do have a difference. But it's really not okay with him. Therefore, you may have to fight, and maybe it'll end, and maybe it'll end very quickly. But there's no way that you can allow, whether you have to fight or not, you can allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon because the entire world will blow up. Not going to let that happen.
Notably, in a heated interview, Republican Senator Ted Cruz clashed with Tucker Carlson, citing the Bible to defend U.S. support for Israel's strikes on Iran. His remarks come amid growing tensions in the Middle East, with Israel striking Iranian targets, killing 24 and injuring over 500 in retaliation. Iran responded with force, vowing no surrender and warning the U.S. that involvement would bring irreparable damage. The Israel-Iran conflict has sparked an internal split among Trump's MAGA supporters. While figures like Carlson, Steve Bannon, and Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene oppose U.S. involvement, others such as Fox News' Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, and Senators Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz have voiced support for Israel's actions. Earlier at the G7 summit in Canada, Trump brushed off Carlson's stance, saying, "Let him get a network and say it there."
Oh, no. Oh, come on, sir.
Full
Sir,
camera.
come on, go.
In front of you.
Full camera.
Okay, thank you very much. we all know the great Prime Minister of the UK, and we just signed a document. This is, sorry about that.
A very important document.
A little windy out here. Give me that. We just signed it, and it's done. And so we have our trade agreement with the European Union, and it's a fair deal for both. Going to produce a lot of jobs, a lot of income, and we have many other ones coming. But you see the level of enthusiasm is very good. But the relationship that we have is fantastic. So I just want to congratulate you.
But Donald, thank you very much. This now implements on car tariffs and aerospace, our really important agreement. And so this is a very good day for both of our countries, a real sign of strength. So thank you again, Donald. A really important day for both.
Great people.
Has anything changed in the agreement since you spoke on the phone from the Oval Office?
Not much.
No?
Mr. President, may I ask you a question, please? G7 leaders are calling for de-escalation in Israel and Iran, but you are the key to unlocking that.
And here I am.
And here you are. So can I ask you, sir, have you spoken to Prime Minister Netanyahu? When might you speak to him, and what will you say?
Israel is doing very well, as you probably noticed, and I gave Iran 60 days, and they said no. And the 61st, you saw what happened. Day 61. So I'm in constant touch. And as I've been saying, I think a deal will be signed, or something will happen, but a deal will be signed. And I think Iran is foolish not to sign one.
Mr. President, Iran is accusing Netanyahu of attacking them to deliberately derail your nuclear plan that you had. What do you say to that? Do you think that's true?
No. Look, Iran should have signed the deal.
If it would help bring Iran to the negotiating table, would you guarantee that the U.S. would not get involved militarily?
Well, I think Iran basically is at the negotiating table. They want to make a deal. And as soon as I leave here, we're going to be doing something. But I have to leave here. I have, this commitment. I have a lot of commitments. I have a commitment to a lot of countries, including the UK, where we just signed our deal.
Mr. President, where are you settling on steel tariffs with respect to the UK? Are those going to zero, or are they staying at 25?
We're gonna let you have that information in a little while. They're starting already.
Mr. President, do you agree to the European push to apply more sanctions on Russia? Does the US support that?
Well, Europe is saying that, but they haven't done it yet. Let's see them do it first.
You told me earlier that you could sanction Russia. Why wait? Why wait to sanction them?
Because I'm waiting to see whether or not a deal is signed.
Can you guarantee the UK won't be subject
And don't
to
forget,
any
sanctions cost us a lot of money. When I sanction a country, that costs the U.S. a lot of money, a tremendous amount of money. It's not just let's sign a document. You're talking about billions and billions of dollars. Sanctions are not that easy. It's not just a one-way street.
And just quickly, do you think that Israel can?
The submarine agreement, is that still proceeding? You've initiated a sort of review of that.
Yep, we're proceeding with that. It's a really important deal to both of us. I think the President is doing a review. We did a review when we came into government, so that makes good sense to me. But it's a really important.
We're very long-time partners and allies and friends, and we've become friends in a short period of time. He's slightly more liberal than I am, to put it mildly.
Always stand slightly on the left.
But for some reason we get along.
We make it work.
Mr. President,
could you just add one thing on Russia? There are quite a few British presidents worried about the war. Can you reassure me that you're not
I just, I don't, saving lives. I only care about saving lives. We have nothing to do with it except that Biden stupidly let us get into that mess and gave him $350 billion. $350 billion. And yet, despite that, you saw how we did in the Middle East. We took in $5.1 trillion. We have $15 trillion almost, looking around that number, going to be invested in the U.S. So the money is not the thing in this case. It's 5,000 young people are being killed every week in Russia, Ukraine. And if I can stop that, I'll be very happy. They're Ukrainian and they're Russian. So you could say, what am I doing? But I'd like to see if I could stop.
Mr. President, would you consider going
that Israel can fully eliminate the threat that Iran poses, this nuclear threat that they pose, without the United States military help?
Who said that?
No, I'm asking if you believe they can.
Well, it doesn't. It's irrelevant. Something's going to happen.
How do you
Mr. President,
feel
would you
like
consider traveling to the Mideast as part of any talks if it would help broker a deal?
Yeah,
with Iran?
yeah, but I think we're doing pretty well. We're talking.
You don't think
We have a
you'll need
thing called the telephone, so we're talking. But
Mr. President,
but
do you think you
it's
can-
always better to talk in person.
Mr. President, do you want to see regime change in Iran?
I want to see no nuclear weapon in Iran, and we're well on our way to making sure that happens.
Mr.
We've had a
President,
discussion about
do
that
you
this morning.
think
There's
you
a
can
in the
de-escalate?
G7 absolute clarity in relation to the nuclear program. We do not want to see it.
Mr. President, millions of people are so anxious about.
What?
You guarantee the UK will be protected from the nuclear tariffs?
The UK is very well protected. You know why? Because I like them. That's why. That's their ultimate protection. Thank you very much. The Prime Minister's done a great job. I want to just tell that to the people of the United Kingdom. He's done a very, very good job. You know, he's done what other people, they've been talking about this deal for 6 years, right?
6 years.
And he's done what they haven't been able to do. So he's done really a very good job.
One more
Response
Canada, now
to
that you're
Tucker
here,
Carlson
you still think it should be a 50%
criticizing
state?
you, saying that you were complicit in the war.
I don't know what Tucker Carlson is saying. Let him go get a television network and say it so that people listen.
And quickly,
Thank you.